Okay. We're ready to start. We'll call this meeting to order. We'll call the roll first. Say present. Quazon Payne.
Present.
David Lynn.
Yeah.
Jeff Bradbury here. First, need to get a motion to approve the minutes of the April 22nd meeting.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Need to get a motion to adopt today's agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
We had nobody, had no public comment. So we'll move on to conservation use. Linda, you still on?
I'm here.
Oh, Kirk's gonna do them? All right.
Yeah. All right. As you know, we've already approved some conservation use. So this will be the remainder for this meeting. The ones that the staff has reviewed and would like for the board to approve are parcels 10-2-6, 10-2-10, 10-2-12A, 10-3-14, 15-2-12, 16-1-D4, B016B, 25-4-21, and 29-1-13. These are all continuing to do either production of trees or wildlife habitat, or they're producing some kind of agricultural thing. So it would be our recommendation that those 4, 5, 6, however how many it was, I think it was 8. Yes, those 8 be approved for conservation use renewal.
Can I get a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right. Out of the renewals, we're asking that 3 be denied. The first 2 on the list, which is 546, 54C 86 and 54C 86B, owned by James Parham. Both of these are under 10 acres. One is 6.61 acres, the other is 5.5. We just could not see that they were doing any kind of agricultural production at this time. I think in the past they may have had some blueberry bushes or something else going on, but there's really no activity that we could see. We're going to ask that it be denied, and they always have the chance to come in and appeal and prove that they are using all of that acreage for agricultural. And the other one we wish to deny at this time is 1531A, which is Swinehart Investments. It meets the qualifications. It's a 127-acre tract. I mean, it's got a lot of things going on. Its problem is it's an LP, and as an LP or any kind of family farm corporation, you have to, 80% of your income has to be derived from agricultural purposes. And in their 1040 that they sent us, the only income that they receive is from investment purposes. It wasn't a lot, but there was no income from agricultural whatsoever. So we would ask that these 3, 54C86, 54C86B, and 1531A be denied at this time for conservation use.
I get a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And now we're going on to new applications.
All right, under the new applications, you've seen the list. It's been provided. The first 4 on the list, which is 034A1, A16, and A16A, parcel 4214, and parcel 636, they all meet the qualifications either raising crops, hay, or wildlife. And 34A1, A16A is actually 8 acres, but it falls under that new law where it's recently acquired property that ties to an existing conservation use that's contiguous. And so it meets those qualifications. So we're asking that those 4, the first 4 on the list, be approved for conservation use.
Motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, the next 3 on the list, which is 25-2C2, B6, 7, and 8, it's owned by Betty Boland. She lives in Bar H Estates, and all of these are either 2 or 3 acre tracts, and it's just residential lots. So we would ask that all 3 of these be denied.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, we're going to continuations.
Under continuations, we have 6, and after doing some more research, it's our recommendation that all 6 of these be approved. The first 3 are owned by Pilcher, 28355, 5E, and 5H. It was formerly under a gentleman named Dawson, and so we believe that those should be continued. The 4th one, 29115A, is owned by Zuniga, and that one was just started a covenant last year. And then the last 2, 31214 and 14A, are owned by Reggie Ogg, and they were put in a trust. So that's the reason those need to be continued. But it's our recommendation that all 6 of these be approved for conservation use continuation.
I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And then we're gonna move on. We've got a breach.
Parcel 15427, which is now owned by QP Properties. It's a limited liability corporation, and like I spoke of before, anyone that's a family farm corporation, 80% of your income must come from agricultural purposes. This LLC derives income from other places. So this one, it was in for a year, and now that it's in this new company, it should be breached.
Okay. Isn't this a 2-part deal where we have to make a motion to deny the application?
Yes, you would deny the application and then breach the existing covenant.
Okay. All right. David, I get a motion.
Brother Chair, because I have interest in this property, I have to recuse myself. So Jeb and David, y'all have to carry this.
Okay. Need to get a motion, David.
So moved.
I'll second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
A motion to breach the conservation use.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Now we're going to move on to exempt property request.
All right, we've got 3 properties that are requesting to be exempt. The first one is the Wasika Montessori School, which is off of Tallahassee Road. And we have dealt with them in the past. And in the past, we felt like they did not qualify because they were just primarily a daycare center. They only went up through like age 6. But now the school does go up through 5th or 6th grade. They do have a school curriculum. They are learning under the Montessori umbrella. And in reviewing it and kind of talking with the attorney's office, John also reviewed some case law we do believe that this one does meet the qualifications for exemption.
Okay, do you want to do all three of these together or one at a time?
Let's do them one at a time.
Okay, well, can I get a motion
So
for
moved.
Wasika?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
The next one is the church in Athens. They own a parsonage at 285 University Circle. I have been in contact with them, and the exemption that they're applying for is property owned by a religious group and used only for single-family residences when no income is derived from the property, which is a parsonage. And the person that lives there is an employee of the church, is also one of the 3 officers of the church in Athens, and they do reside at the property. We were able to verify that, and we believe they do meet the qualifications. The church meets the qualifications as a church, and so it would be our recommendation that this one also be approved for the exemption.
I get that motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 The third one on the list, which is freedom from bondage, they have a triplex out at Highland Park. And the address, I'll have to get it. It's like 190, 192, and 194 Highland Park. And they are asking for this one to be exempt as a charitable organization. And after kind of looking through this, and I know John, our attorney, did some research into this, and whenever we did with a charitable organization, there's just a lot of hoops you have to jump through. And so basically, we feel they do not qualify because over 67% of their income comes from rental or fees that they charge to the people that live at where they live. And so they're really competing with other, renters in the neighborhood and charging actually more than market rent. And so we just feel like they don't really meet the true letter of the law for charitable organization. And I know I may ask John to speak just a little bit more on this one, just to kind of explain the case that he was looking at.
Sure, I'm happy to do that, Kirk. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. There is a case that was provided to you in a confidential and privileged memo that I sent over to the board members. This case has strikingly similar facts to the present situation. In that case, it was something relatively similar. You had residents living in a facility, either the residents' families or the government was paying a monthly fee to the facility for the people to stay there. And ultimately, what the Supreme Court of Georgia decided was that while it certainly was a very beneficial organization and did a lot for the community, it didn't meet the technical details of being a purely public charity under Georgia property tax law because it wasn't sufficiently public. In other words, because it was charging the residents to stay there, and because most, if not all, the people who were staying there were paid, it wasn't really a purely public charity.
Okay.
So our recommendation is that this one be denied for all 3
Right.
parties.
Can I get the motion?
I have a question.
Okay.
John, how does this differ from the Sine case? They've got a 501c3 from the IRS and they deliver some public charity. I mean, like Sine charges an admission fee. How does that differ from this case?
I would say this is different in a couple of aspects. One, there's a case, the Annandale case that I just discussed, that is very similar in facts. The second thing that I would note is, I think one of the reasons that the board ultimately approved Sine is because of some of the language in the Nucci Phillips case. And based upon what we know right now about freedom from bondage, it doesn't quite line up with the language in the Nucci case. In other words, the Nucci case says you can derive some income from the property,
Right.
but you know that has to be incidental, and that income has to be basically plowed back into the charitable purpose of the organization.
Okay.
On this one, basically, its purpose is, as far as we know right now, is charging folks these fees to be able to stay there. Again, we're not saying that it's not a very beneficial organization or that it doesn't provide a lot of good works for the community. Simply the way that it's structured, with most of its income coming from the fees it charges to people, that doesn't necessarily make it a purely public charity under Georgia tax law.
Okay.
Can I get a motion to deny?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We'll move on to homestead exemptions. You're not going to go through these one by one, are you? It's a pretty long list.
Amanda's
No,
going to present them.
I'm actually going to not go over them, but I had sent you all the lists, both lists actually, back on Wednesday, and you should have had a chance to review them, but I will answer any questions that y'all might have on any of them at this time. But these are all new applications, and they're all ones that we recommend for denial. Again, they can provide additional information, and you know, they have 45 days to appeal their removal. And there's 29 of them. Do y'all have any questions at all?
Brother Chair, I've reviewed them. I don't have any questions.
I'm good.
Make a motion for denial.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we'll move on to homesteads for removal.
Yes, these are the non-traditional applicants that have to provide identification, either a Georgia driver's license or a permanent resident card. We have to take down expiration date information. And so these are applicants whose IDs have expired. And so we send them letters to let them know. They just come back and provide updated information, and they their homesteads will continue. And so there's 27 parcels.
I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Kirk, you doing the section
Yeah.
G here?
I am. Now that we've gone through the homesteads to deny and remove, what I need is a motion from the board to approve all the eligible homestead exemptions for the 2020 digest. These would be, you know, all the people that have recently moved in or moved from one place to another that would be eligible for homestead exemption. And there's numerous ones, but we just need an overarching motion from the board to approve all the eligible homestead exemptions for 2020 digest.
I get that motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, next I have for you, you've got a list of the 2020 Freeport accounts that are recommended for approval. It's a list of 69 of them. The Freeport exemption amount for these 69 is $153,982,882. And that's an increase from last year of about 25 million. So businesses out there are still rocking along pretty good.
Can I get a motion to approve the Freeport?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right. Next, you have a list of 3 Freeport exemptions that we're recommending for denial. And just under the Georgia code, they just do not meet, they don't meet all the requirements. These are very small scale. As you can see, the 40% value of all 3 of them is only $8,000. But these, they just don't meet the qualifications for Freeport. At least 2 of these actually applied last year and were also denied. So we're asking that these 3 be denied for Freeport.
Get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
So the other thing we need to do is just make a motion to approve all the other existing exemptions for the 2020 digest.
Get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, that is it for G.
Moving on to 2020 values of assessment notices certified to board.
All right. We sent you earlier, the consolidation sheet that we're using for the 2020 assessment notices. We have balanced with the tax commissioner, and the tax commissioner has run theirs and has sent that on to the school board and to the county finance. And so that's what we will be moving forward with. That's what they'll be using to do the millage rate rollback in the 5-year history. And so what we're looking at is from last year, it's about, real property has gone up over 7% from last year. And with the increase in personal property, it's ended up a total of about 7.7% increase over last year's digest for real and personal property. And so you do have your consolidation sheet there that you can look at. Also, as you know, we go through and, we look at every property every year. We've got the county broken down into over 500 residential neighborhoods and close to 100 commercial neighborhoods. Before we started, our ratio studies were below 36. But what I sent to you earlier, now the 2020 residential and agricultural properties, after updates, getting ready for assessment notices, the median is now 0.3997, COD is 0.0277, and the PRD is 0.9962, which is numbers that we strive for every year. I also broke down just the residential only, which the median is 0.39 or 39.97, however you want to look at it. You want to be as close to 40 as possible. Right. Agricultural is 3901, and then we only had like 16 agricultural sales. Then the 2020 commercial and industrial properties, after all the updates, we're at 3975 for the median, with a COD of 0.0487 and a PRD of 1.0348. Commercial by itself is still the 3975. and industrial by itself is 3982. So we're in good shape, you know, as far as our ratios, and this is something the Department of Audits and the Department of Revenue look at every year to see how we're valuing those 4 classes of property. And that's the reason we do what we do, is to make sure we keep things as close to fair market value as possible. And then also, we sent you a breakdown of every neighborhood and kind of where they all shook out based on the sales that we had. The more sales we had, the closer, of course, we could come and figure out what the values are. But just because we didn't have sales in the neighborhood didn't mean we didn't update it. And as a whole, I think I ran it the other day. We've got 42,000 parcels, and about 41,000 of those are taxable. And out of those 41,000, I think it was close to 38 or 39 saw some increase. And so, again, this year was like last year. The increases or the change in values weren't just in certain areas, they were widespread throughout the county. We're seeing that kind of inflation everywhere. It's not just occurring at 5 Points or occurring in East Athens or occurring by the mall. It's happening all over the county. And so that's why we do all of the in-depth analysis that we do, and we feel good about where we are with our values and the ratios. And do y'all have any questions?
Just a comment, Kirk. We appreciate all the hard work. These numbers are outstanding.
I appreciate that, Quazon. Like I said, we just try to maintain year to year. We will be sending out, we're getting the files ready, and I'll have to look right quick to see, but we'll be sending 40,363 real property notices and 1,246 personal property notices. Now, for real property, anything that's not exempt or not a public utility and would receive a tax bill gets a notice. So whether your value went up or down or whatever, everyone's going to get a real property notice, and this has been going on since 2011. Personal property, we only send notices to those where our value is different than their return value. So if somebody returned something and they said all their stuff was worth $100,000 and it's not a new account, it's an existing account, and we agree with it, then we just accept their return and they don't get a notice. So the 1,246 personal property notices are where we found something or our numbers were slightly different or maybe substantially different than theirs. So the first thing that I will need y'all to do is make a motion to approve all the schedules, tables, and factors that we use in our CAMA appraisal process for the 2020 digest.
Get that motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
All right, the next thing I need y'all to do is I also sent y'all a list of 7 parcels that are under 299C, which means they appealed at some point in the past 2 years. But something has changed since that point to warrant these values changing. And I've got the reasons listed here. Y'all had looked that over. The first one was one where the appeal value was one value, and then they actually bought the property for less in 2019. So the Senate Bill 346 arm's length transaction rule actually trumps it. So we have to change that one. The next one is a property that also sold, and market forces and an updated lease renewal is the reason that we're asking for that one to change. The next 4 on the list are all downtown, and because of downtown economics, because of the streetscape improvements to Clayton, and also because they've done some actual updates to the building, we're asking that those 4 be changed. And then the last one is one that was some raw land off of Barnett Shoals, where now they're actually developing on the property, and so that value has also changed. And so we're asking that these 7, the appeal value be removed and reflect current market value.
So we need to get a motion to reset these values, or exactly how should that read?
It should just be a motion to approve the list of warranted changes on the parcels governed by 299C as provided on this list.
Okay. Can I get that motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
All right, the next thing on your list, and what y'all have a copy of, is a list of personal property returns that were late for this year. Some of these will, if they had new equipment or something else that they bought last year, and because it was late, they would be eligible for a penalty. And so we're just asking that y'all approve all of these late returns. This is something we normally do later, but we were able to get the late returns in as well. So all of these are ones that didn't send their return in until after the week of that deadline back on April 1st. We had kind of given them a little grace period. We had actually, allowed them for the first time to email or do whatever they had to do. But even with that, we still had this list of 91 of them that didn't get their return in on time. And in fact, we've had a few more even trickle in. But what we need is approval from the board for these late returns and to apply the penalty where applicable. Some of them won't receive a penalty. I mean, if it's just, if they got the same stuff they had last year and they were late, there's nothing, we just accept it and move on. But it's only where they have new stuff where you would apply the 10% penalty. So again, we're just asking the board to approve these and allow us to apply the penalty as necessary.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Kirk, are we giving any concession for what's going on with the coronavirus as it might relate to these lateness?
Well, we did. As part of the concession, what we did is typically we asked that they either bring them to the office or mail them. And this year we actually allowed them to email them up until midnight of the date that they were due. And we also followed the state's guidelines with the Department of Revenue.
Okay.
And the Department of Revenue said we are not extending deadlines.
Oh, that answers my question.
So, yeah, so we just had to follow their guide. And like I said, we allowed a little bit of grace period, people that were trying to get them in that week. But, a lot of these, you can see the dates that are on here. These are 3 weeks, 4 weeks. We can't excuse that.
Okay.
And in fact, the only deadline that the Department of Revenue extended was they allowed people to apply for conservation use up through June 1st. And I don't know why they extended that deadline, but they did. They didn't extend any other deadline.
Thank you.
So can I get a motion to approve this list?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
All right, and finally, what we need, well, not finally, we'll have at least one more thing, is, as I mentioned before, we're going to be sending 40,363 real property assessment notices and 1,246 personal property. So I need a motion to approve all real property and personal property values for the 2020 tax digest and to send notices.
So moved.
Motion.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Related to that, we will send the file to the vendor today so that they can print them, and assessment notices will go out on May the 15th.
Okay.
So they will go out May 15th, and with the 45-day deadline, June the 29th would be the final day to appeal. All right. And
Kirk, I see a signature requirement there.
yeah, what we'll have to do is, as Amanda will arrange it, but we will make arrangements for y'all to come by and sign it.
Okay.
We may even walk it to you or we'll figure that out, but
Okay.
y'all will have to sign it. And of course, Jeb, as chairman, he's got a bunch of these things he's gonna have to sign. But as far as you and Quazon, you and David, the only one that y'all will have to sign is this one, approving all the values.
Okay.
All right, and then the last thing is, as we get ready to move through the appeals, each year, we get y'all to give authority to the appraisal staff to review and resolve appeals and make any changes as necessary, and then to administer the appeals through the appeals process, which means, you know, if it needs to go to the Board of Equalization, we forward it to the Board of Equalization. If it needs to go to a hearing officer, of course, if it needs to go on to Superior Court, we discuss all that with you at that time, but we need y'all to give us that authority so that we can get the process moving.
Can I get that motion?
Moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right. I think that is all that I have, unless y'all have any questions.
So you got anything on the digest appeal update?
No?
Okay. Is there any other business that anybody has?
No.
Questions? All right, if not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
See you next time.